Hello, welcome to Undisputed Boxing. We're back to review a little bit late, so apologies for that. Conor Benn versus Algieri, and the rest of the card, Lomachenko versus Commey. We also wanted to pick up on Jared Anderson, who also fought on the weekend. I'm here with Rick. Rick was actually at the show, so who better to run us through the card? How are we doing, Rick?
All good. Different surroundings, away with work in Suffolk at the moment, so in a hotel room, but there you go.
All right, awesome. Okay, so where do you want to start?
Well, let's start the Liverpool card, and maybe I didn't see all the fights. I think I walked in to the Cordina fight, probably in round 2 or 3.
Okay. So yeah, what was your take on that? Joe Cordina versus Mikko Kacharian?
Yeah. Did you didn't see this or the Davis Jr., did you? You started at Taylor.
I actually watched the Cordina. I didn't see Robbie Davis Jr., so I saw Joe Cordina. Yeah.
So Cordina was I mean, it was a point win. I can't remember what it was, the point, but it was a heavy victory, and you know what you would expect really for the guys fighting. I didn't know much about the guys fighting, but you know, better skill, better footwork, better punch variety. Didn't have the power. Do you know what I mean? And that's my one worry with Cordina. It's like he should be probably, for the level he's fighting at, he should be putting some of these away.
Yeah.
And the guy was getting outboxed, but he never looked like he was going to wobble. He never looked too much in danger. There's a couple of times he got caught, but you know, he never looked like he was going to go. And he never looked over beat up, even though, you know, he was clearly winning the rounds. And I just wonder what, you know, one, he can't finish people off easily. And 2, he doesn't seem to cause much damage on people. And the other guy had a little bit of success here and there. It wasn't like, you know, every round was an absolute battering. But yeah, he's got skills and that, but I just worry about him as he goes through the ranks. He hasn't got that power, and then someone who's got a better skill level than who he's fighting now will be able to take more risks with him.
Yeah.
But you know, is what it is. Relatively entertaining, and you know, he's from Wales, so not a million miles away from Merseyside, I suppose. Not sure which part of Wales he's from actually. Might not be North Wales. So there was a bit of support there for him.
Okay. Yeah, I think you're right. You're absolutely right. He doesn't have the knockout power, but his punch variety and his footwork, his head movement, he has got a lot of skills to burn. I think he's quite exciting to watch. But the super featherweight division is pretty stacked. So yeah, I think they're talking about maybe one more before they let him go. And I think they're pretty much going to be gunning for a world title shot next year. So yeah.
Who's he lined up with? Which I get the feeling it was, because this was pretty sure it was like
WBA. It was for the WBA Continental.
Yeah, it was like one of those things, because I remember looking at going for a belt that doesn't really mean much. So he's going. So who's got WBA at the moment in that weight?
It was Tank. I'm not sure who has it now. Is it? It's Jamal Herring, isn't it? I think. I know Jamal Herring, I think, is the WBO. But I think at the top of that division is really probably Oscar Valdez or Shakur Stevenson. You know, I really can't see him giving either of those any trouble. But yeah, I don't know. I think we'll have to see what they do with him, really. His knockout ratio isn't actually that bad. It's not really low. It's not like a Lerone Richards or Josh Warrington, where he hasn't knocked anybody out. And his one that the guy that he knocked out in the fight camp was pretty impressive, I thought.
Yeah, just the time. Maybe it's the times I've seen, because I can't say I've watched every fight. Just you know, minimum damage when he seems to connect. Though he does connect. You know, I always worry, like when you've got to be extra skilled, because we'll get onto Loma later, and you know, Loma's not like the biggest hitter in the world, but he carries enough power to keep people, you know, respectful, I suppose. And then he's got awesome skill. Where Cordina he's not got that level of skill, and he may hit less as hard. And if you've got that combination, people are going to take more liberties with you.
Yeah.
And obviously through the ranks, they, the higher you go, the more that they expect to win, and the more harder they hit. But time will tell with all these things, won't they?
I mean, Eddie Hearn's pretty good at kind of positioning his fighters into kind of world title contenders and world champions. He did the same with, there's a lot of, I think he's had a lot of I don't want to be disrespectful, but very good sort of British level fighters and got them into world title contention. And some reason they've managed to pull off, and become world champion. Tony Bellew comes to mind, Anthony Crolla, not that, he's not going to go down as an all-time great, but, he was world champion. So, and you'd have to say, the super featherweights, they are world beaters, Oscar Valdez, Shakur Stevenson, but Shakur Stevenson's probably going to move up to lightweight probably next year. So I'm sure
there's a timing. There's a timing with these things. They may hold him back until late next year, and then it might, the landscape may look different. We probably need to move on because we've got 6 fights and we've spent probably 7 minutes on this one.
All right, let's rattle through it. Robbie Davis Jr. versus Henry Lundy. So I didn't see this one, but what was your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, again, didn't really know what to expect from Lundy, and not much was the thing. I mean, it was one of those where he caught him in the first round and his legs just went a bit, and you were just like, oh, hello, do you know what I mean? This isn't going to last long. And then came out the second round, and I can't remember how long it lasted. Pretty sure it was the second round. I'd had a few at this stage, and he got knocked down. He went right through the ropes and couldn't really get. I mean, it's just the rules, isn't it? I mean, if he'd been knocked down and hadn't gone through the ropes, he may have got up in time, but he couldn't seem to get himself up and untangled and back into the ropes in the time. And it was probably best for him anyway, because I think he'll be back on his backside, within the next 20 seconds anyway, if he had. So again, I don't know much about the opponent, so I don't know how much of a good win it was, but I think again, it was an intercontinental belt as well.
Yeah, I'm not sure about that. All right. Katie Taylor, Firuza Sharapova.
Yeah, I was actually really looking forward to this fight, and it disappointed a bit. And I think probably because Katie Taylor disappointed a bit. One thing I noticed quite early on is the other girl was, I'm not going to try and pronounce the name, was quite big, looked bigger than her, and then just in the clinches looked stronger than her. And I think that caused, I don't know if Taylor was, I mean, something we spoke about, is she now just on the wrong side of her peak? That could be a thing. Is she slightly slowing down? Is she not quite up for this fight, or did this girl just cause her certain problems because certain fighters cause other fighters problems? She may have felt a bit of a power and thought, I'll be a bit more careful. She seemed to fight in smaller bursts than she normally does. And for me, it was and she's had a few of these now where it's not just quite done enough, but it's not a million miles away from that. I thought most rounds were quite competitive.
I thought that.
And I wonder if you might know the girls, but the girl that beat Terry Harper, I think we might have spoke about this.
Alicia, I was going to mention her, Alicia Baumgardner. Yeah, she's probably one of my favorite fighters at the moment. You look special.
At that and. Yeah, you look at that and you just wonder, again, styles make fights, and Katie Taylor is probably another level, and she's shown like a good chin as well. But you just wonder, if that was her in there, because Taylor does seem to, and I've noticed this before, but it was even more clear when I was there live. She launches in and her head's in there just as much as a fist. And if someone can time her, so a bit disappointed because I didn't expect necessarily a knockout, but I expected a bit more action. And Taylor just seemed to be, her burst seemed to be less. I wonder if it's a fitness thing or what, or whether she's just kind of coasting and can't get up for fights until Serrano.
Well, that's the thing, you don't know, do you? I mean, this is the mistake that we made with Alexander Usyk. He gets past Derek Chisora, and then Reese. No, who was it? Witherspoon before. God, I can't remember his name now.
Is it Winters? Is it Winters?
No, it was Witherspoon. Tim Witherspoon, not Tim Witherspoon. His nephew. But no, he just gets past Derek Chisora, and you think, okay, Usyk's not really got that much. And then against AJ, he just brought more levels. So you don't know whether Katie Taylor may do the same. But I don't know. Against Katie Taylor versus Alicia Baumgardner now, who would you be picking if it's on this weekend?
I don't know. I need to watch more Baumgardner really, because that's just one fight, and there's other things to take into account about was Harper hadn't fought for a while, and so it's not as simple as that. But yeah, I wouldn't. Yeah, I'd probably still back Taylor.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be surprised if she got cleaned out as well.
Yeah. That's the thing, isn't it? With explosive boxers, you just never know. Things could happen, or the boxer might just know how to nullify.
The one thing I'd say about Taylor is I've never seen her, and not like it's not like she hasn't been hit before. I've never seen her rattled.
Yeah.
I've seen her take a shot, and she's kind of gone in slightly back into a shell, but I've never seen her like wobbled.
Yeah.
So there you go. And it's like Cambosa and Lopez. It's like some people can take the power and then find a way, and some different. So
yeah, they can find a level. All right, let me just move this back a little bit. All right, on to the main event: Conor Benn versus Chris Algieri. What was your take on that?
Well, what a knockout!
Yeah.
I mean, they were asking him to deliver something. I've seen a few harsh things about Algieri, and this is normally what happens now. It's this thing, oh well, he's finished and that. Oh, he's lost his chin. I'm not sure he would have taken that shot in his prime. It was bang on the chin. He looked out for a couple of seconds. He looked out. So I don't know how. Go back 5 years, he'd have taken that punch better. You may say he may not have been there to take the punch in terms of his defense, maybe better, but I don't know. But it was funny because I predicted a points victory, and I think about literally 20 seconds before the knockout, I was sat there, I was thinking, Ben's stalking him, but he's caught him a few times, and Algieri's not over wobbled or anything, so I think he can take his power. So I think this is just going to points, and then literally 20 seconds later, he was on the floor. So I was feeling quite happy about my prediction until that landed. But
yeah, I got the predictions bang on this weekend. I should have had a flutter.
Yeah, I'm not going to give you all the credit. You said a late stoppage.
Yeah, I think I was expecting him to call. He is. No matter what you say about him, in his day, he was a world-class, light welterweight, won a world title. He had great boxing skill. I did think he was going to give Conor Benn a few more problems, but Conor Benn found his range very quickly. I've got to say, I was really, really impressed with Conor Benn. I've, for a long time, I just thought it's a bit of a novelty act. And it's interesting how, even if you'd have asked me 2 years ago, and anybody in boxing, anybody that in the boxing world or as a boxing fan, if they'd have said Conor Benn versus Josh Kelly, they would have laughed and said Josh Kelly all day. Whereas now, if you get them in the ring together, most people would Conor Benn would probably start that as the favourite. Look at what look at what 2 years has done. Josh Kelly just got cleaned out by
Avanesian,
and Conor Benn is obviously his trajectory has just gone like that. So. It's interesting. You've got to give him the props. I mean, his defensive work and his head movement was it was awesome. Really, really good. I was really impressed with it. And his boxing skill.
The only thing I say about his defense is that he, and this is really different. I'm being very critical here because I want him to get to the best level. Is that when he puts himself into defensive mode, he's got awesome defense because his reflexes are great and you can sense danger in that. When he's going for it, I think he does leave himself still open. And that's a hard skill to be attacking, but also defensively aware. Yeah. So his head's still up a little bit. You know, for the absolute top skilled, they would find a way to counter him as he's coming in. Yeah. You know, and you think of the people like Crawford and stuff like that. I think, you know, Crawford would take that slight step back and then the count, you know, a bit like a reporter. Yeah. You know, but the thing he may have, and it's not been tested for a while, is that chin. So, but yeah, I'd like to see him now against the Avanesians and stuff like that. And
yeah, that's a mouth-watering fight, isn't it?
It is. It's also because I think it may be one that would bring Hearn and Bricktop together.
You're dying for that, aren't you? Like a Hearn, Eddie Hearn and Frank Warren press conference. That's pay-per-view, though, isn't it?
The fight is probably secondary.
Yeah. Well, you'd pay your 20 quid or 25 quid or whatever it is these days. Just have those going at it on the front table.
I don't think they'll go down that route. I don't think they'll go down that route. And to be fair, they're talking about the winner or loser of Brook Khan, but I think that will be too far away because the winner or loser of that won't want to fight until the end of the year. So they're going to have to find someone else. I can't see it being Avanesian. So it'd be interesting to see who they pluck out. I mean, they're obviously talking Broner. Broner seems to be the one that they're in the mix for the most, and they're probably sniffing a big name there, potentially in America. Yeah. And I don't know what state Broner's in.
Hasn't he just been arrested again?
Well, not recently, but yeah, he had been.
Yeah. I think that's a fun fight, Adrian Broner. Adrian Broner in New York, maybe, or I think maybe Kavaliauskas, the Lithuanian, who just fought Virgil Ortiz, would be pretty good. They're actually talking about Yordenis Ugas, just going straight for the WBA strap. But I don't know. I think that's a step too far at the moment. You know, put him in with a slick, you know, Cuban who's just beaten, you know, it's just ended Manny Pacquiao's career. I just think they need to calm down a little bit and maybe just have another easy touch. I think an easy touch in early next year, and then the loser or winner of Ben Khan Brook, and then world title the year after. I still think he's got a little bit more of his man strength to develop. He's still only, how old is he? 24, 25?
Can't remember, but yeah, I mean, there won't be much more. I think as you hit mid-20s, that's going to be it. So you might get a bit more. But I mean, I think he causes Ugas problems. I don't, you know, I think to be fair, he'd cause him problems and he's got a fair chance of winning. Whether I put him favourite, I don't know, but it's not. But it's like, do you need to take that risk? Yeah, I suppose. But then, is that the best chance of winning a belt? If, you know, will Ugas fight someone and lose his belt, you know, trying to unify something?
And that's if he's still got his belt. I think they're talking about Errol Spence versus Ugas. And isn't Ugas with PBC? That's, you know, that's another issue. We all know PBC don't love Eddie Hearn. So, yeah, well, I don't know. Yeah, well, let's
face it, it's probably going to be Broner if it's going to be any kind of name. And the thing is, he'll get some credit and not some credit for something like that, because it'll be, well, Broner's not fought an X amount of times, you know, and Broner's lost quite a bit as well.
Yeah, yeah, it's a real tragedy, his career. He was absolute dynamite in his day, Adrian Broner. I was really, really impressed with him. All right, let's move on. Lomachenko versus Commey fight. Yeah, what are your thoughts on that?
Are we doing the undercard first? The Anderson first? Well, that's the only one I think that was from the
that's
card.
That's the only one I saw, yeah. Jared Anderson. Yeah, talk about that if you want. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was a 2-round jobby, really, wasn't it? So there wasn't much to talk about. You know, expected to do that job on him. You know, he does look very different, Anderson. Again, he's doesn't move like a heavyweight. Interesting to see what it'd be like going through the levels. I thought that I thought the guy wanted out, really, if I'm honest. I think he felt the power, and I think he wasn't. I don't think he was that hurt, and he just, stalled a bit getting up, and then almost pretended to wobble slightly because he quit, but he didn't want to say he quit. I just think he felt the power and thought, sod that.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's a shame because it's one of those where what do you learn, but you have to go through those fights. I think that was his 12th fight.
Yeah, I think 11th fight. Yeah, Jared Anderson. Yeah.
So
with PBC, obviously training with Tyson Fury. Tyson Fury is tipped him to be like a future world champion.
Yeah. I think he called out Dubois afterwards. I mean, that'd be fun, but it won't happen. But
yeah, I'm just not.
He needs to start getting. He needs to start getting a few more, known names. I mean, he's just a kind of bit of an opponent now. But who did the fight we watched together?
Carlos Takam and.
Yeah, so maybe Anderson versus Takam. Takam is now a bit of a gatekeeper. Are you at a decent level? What can you do against him?
Yeah, I mean, somebody will probably be stateside, wouldn't it? So maybe like a Gerald Washington. I think Carlos Takam is fighting Tony Yoka anyway in the new year.
Yeah, no, you're right. But that's the kind of next fight you want. It's like, right, you're done with bums and that. Let's get you a decent, decent fight. You can't go from that to like Dubois.
Yeah.
Talking of which, what's going on with Dubois? Not heard much.
I think there's something going on with the WBA because they were trying to get him in with Trevor Bryan because Trevor Bryan is the regular champion. And I was reading something a few weeks ago now. I forget the detail, but Frank Warren is obviously trying to get Daniel Dubois into position to fight Trevor Bryan, hopefully next for the regular WBA heavyweight champion. But Trevor Bryan, I don't know what's going on. He's attached to Don King, which probably says why he hasn't been very active. It's amazing how Don King is still in boxing, to be honest. But anyway, we won't go there tonight. So yeah, I think they're waiting on some sort of decision or ruling on that. Yeah.
And then the sorry, did you see the Anderson fight?
Yeah, I did see it. Yeah, I don't know. It's with a lot of prospects, it's just very difficult to get a read on like how good they are until they kind of step up through the levels. I mean, he's obviously a very confident guy. He's getting he's sparring with the right type of people, Tyson Fury, and they seem to sort of sing his praises. He's a switch hitter, which is quite unique for a heavyweight. He has some good skill. He's got a heavy right hand.
He does move differently, doesn't he? Seems to move differently.
Yeah, but I'm not quite on the train yet. We'll have to see what he's like as he steps through the levels.
The Loma fight, I think the thing that sticks in my head about the Loma fight is the difference between round 1 and round 2. So I didn't watch this live. I knew the result. I only watched highlights actually, which sometimes is a bit dangerous depending who's put it together. But the first round, you look at it and you're like, he's causing him all kinds of problems. And Loma looked quite uncomfortable. And then by the second or third round, he was just reading everything, encountering stuff. And it just shows either he wasn't warmed up and just got off to a bad start, or the way some of these fighters can just download information and start reacting and learning. And you know what I mean? The fight just changed within a round. And then from then on, I mean, he gave Loma, some awkward moments, but not terrible moments. And obviously, he had a really bad round. I don't know where it was, like 8th or 9th, where he was on the floor. And
7
was it? He did well to get through that. And Loma was, I don't know why Loma was so arsed about turning to his corner and trying to get them to stop it. I've seen fighters in worse condition. And to be fair, he was throwing, he did look a bit out of it, but he was throwing back and still being competitive. So the ref was right to carry on. And then I thought towards the end, he finished better than the middle round. So he started off well, had terrible middle rounds, and finished a bit better. When I say finished better, I don't mean necessarily won rounds, just was more competitive. Those last couple of rounds, it looked, the rounds looked a lot closer than the middle rounds were. And normally you don't get that. But yeah, Loma was feet were great, shot selection was great. I mean, if he had like really good power, a lot of his fights wouldn't go past 6 rounds because he lands so easily, and he couldn't miss with that left hand, straight or hooked.
Yeah, I've got to say, I mean, I was super impressed with Loma. I watched the fight and I just thought it's crazy to think how like he loses, like, was it a split decision with Teofimo Lopez? I know Lopez obviously won on points, but I can't remember if it was a split decision. But that was before Loma's shoulder surgery that he had. And Loma won probably the second half of that fight against Teofimo Lopez. And then he was all of a sudden just written off. And, he's still an absolute, I don't know, phenom, Lomachenko. And I actually think he's actually starting to fade a little bit. He's probably about 70 to 80% of what he was a few years ago. But he's still got, all those tools. Like his footwork is just off the chart. He finds a home for that. His accuracy and shot selection, the way he's just right there in front of them and just sort of steps off to the right, dips under, pivots out of the pocket. It's just amazing to watch. He was just toying with Richard Commey. He could have probably stopped him in the 7th round. He put him down. He just more kind of it was a good timing of the left hand rather than a kind of a sledgehammer shot. But he was stumbling.
It was almost after like a clinch. It was probably a bit of naivety from Commey, really, because it was almost like after a clinch and he seemed to drop his hand and then it just came in. But yeah, I mean, you hope that Loma gets another crack about. No one's going to be eager to fight him. Just slightly off topic, have you linked topic, but you see, I didn't see the interview, but I've heard Bob Arons made comments that and this could just be sour grapesing, but that Lopez should have been in hospital rather than being in the ring that night, like something was wrong with him.
Yeah, I don't know. I think there's a lot of stuff coming out of the Teofimo Lopez camp that I don't really like. They're just trying to take the shine off of his defeat, and they haven't taken that defeat against Kambosos very well. And I don't like it at all. I think, George Kambosos won the fight fair and square. You got into that ring, you were fit to fight, or fit as, you felt you were fit to fight. You were kind of shouting your mouth off saying you're going to stop him in 1 round, and you got beat up, and you just got to take your defeat. And leaking all this stuff about bad camp, I was going through a divorce, I should have been in hospital. It just really pisses me off. I just think it's really, really bad form when you do that.
It smells of Wilder again, doesn't it? It's almost like their egos just can't take it. And
no, I know, just have to find a way out. It just looks terrible. Like when David Haye did it against Klitschko with the broken toe, it just looks terrible. I don't like it.
It's almost like they have to say it to themselves, otherwise they'll never get in the ring again. It's like, I can't believe someone's actually beat me, and I can't accept a defeat in my head. Otherwise, I might as well quit boxing. So that's almost their mentality.
And I do think his dad is in his ear as well. It's very, that trainer father relationship. There's some positive ones out there. Don't get me wrong, but this one I just don't think is healthy at all. I don't know if he maybe needs to look at getting another trainer. But without going off topic, I was really impressed with Loma. And any of those, so four kings gets in the ring with Loma, they've got their work cut out for them. Let me tell you, I still think, I don't know if I would back any of them to beat Loma at this point, and even at that 70 or 80%.
Yeah, it may have just been he had a bad night, or.
Yeah, well, he was injured. He had a shoulder surgery after that Lopez fight. So, for me, he is still the man. I mean, Kambosos is the man. Devin Haney is another world champion, and until that changes, you've got to say that they're at the top of the hill. But Loma isn't going to be going away, and as soon as he gets a mandatory position, as it looked like he might do with the WBO, then they're going to be in trouble.
He looks so small in there as well.
Yeah, I know. That's another thing. Commey was kind of towering over him at times, and clearly the smaller guy. Yeah, okay, interesting. All right, that is a long review. How long did we go on for there? Maybe about 40 minutes. All right, let's wrap it up. We're going to do a prediction for Parker Chisora 2. All right. Thanks everybody for listening. Like and subscribe.